Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Nathan Cobb, and I will be your host today for this webinar. And I want to do just a couple of things, get you a little bit of information before we start today into the actual topic. I want to let you know that throughout the time, you will have the opportunity to comment or ask questions. This is done very easily by using at the bottom of your screen. There is a little text bubble. It says Q&A. Go ahead on there and just type in any question you would have. We'll be taking those throughout the time, but we won't answer them to the end. So if you have something, you think about it, you want to not forget that question, please feel free to pop that in. Go ahead. I will be monitoring that the entire time, but we won't actually be answering it to the end. So don't think we've forgotten about you. We're just waiting until the end to do that. Also, we'll have a poll going out through this. So when that pops up, it will pop up on your screen. Please feel free to answer that, send it back in. It'll run for about 3 minutes. And then we'll talk about that poll as we're going and as things go on. One last reminder, we are recording this. This is a recorded webinar, so just be aware that this is recorded, and it will be available, that recording, for you after the webinar. You'll get a follow-up email within about 24 hours of the conclusion of the webinar. Depending on your email servers, it might take a few hours more. And it will have all the information, not only on the recording, but also on our speakers and on any links to programs or solutions or different things that they discuss in that. So this is a little bit of a different webinar. If you've been on a Serrala webinar or on a Credit Safe webinar, this is a little bit different because we've teamed up to actually create an entire series joining the two companies. So for those of you that are new to this, let me give you a little bit of an intro into each company, to the series itself, and then we'll jump into the topic for today. So Serrala is a global B2B fintech software company. They optimize the universe of payments for organizations seeking efficient cash visibility and secure financial processes. And as an SAP partner, Serrala supports over 2,500 companies worldwide with advanced technology, intelligent automation, and personalized consulting. Their comprehensive end-to-end portfolio automates inbound and outbound payment processes, as well as the management of related data and documents. As the world's most used provider of business intelligence, CreditSafe owns and maintains one of the most comprehensive and rapidly expanding business databases, with credit information on over 365 million companies worldwide. They're changing the way business information is used by offering a collection of products and solutions that help companies leverage domestic and international credit reports, company data, principal information, domestic and international judgments, and credit scores to make smarter business decisions. Now, we've put these two companies have come together to put this joint webinar series, Customers, Connections, and Compliance, together. And it's focused on the what, why, and how of managing your know your customer process, your KYC process. In today's uncertain environment, it's more important than ever to have that real-time access to customer payment and credit data. Today's webinar is the start of the series. It's the first one in this series. And we're going to start off by explaining how CreditSafe's extensive business database enables you to know your customer at a deeper level, and how Serrala uses that data to then create a single source of truth within your credit management system. So we have two experts in their field, two executives with these companies that are joining us today. I'm pleased to have them here. I'm thrilled, honestly, to be among them today. And first, I'll introduce Michael Kohler. He is the principal solution architect for Serrala. With over 10 years experience working in the order to cash field, Michael's present and previous roles have given him unique insight into best practices in managing credit and compliance risks, as well as collections operations for businesses of various sizes and industries. And we also have Mark Edwards, who's the managing director of CreditSafe USA. He's a registered global credit professional with over a decade of experience in the credit and business information industry. Mark's professional expertise focuses on portfolio management, credit and risk solutions, and business development for companies of all sizes and industries. So gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Nathan. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Nathan.
Absolutely. So to do this idea of know your customer is extremely important right now, but saying that is one thing. but explaining it and understanding what's really going on. Mark, would you take a stab at explaining what this is, and then also how CreditSafe's data informs this idea of know your customer?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining Michael and I today. I'm going to share a very quick slide that I think sums up the importance of KYC. CreditSafe research suggests that a typical organization loses up to 5% of its revenue in a given year due to fraud, credit defaults, and subpar due diligence. With that, I'm going to stop my screen. So what is Know Your Customers, or KYC? KYC procedures are a function to assess third-party risk, and in some industries are a legal requirement that enforce particularly financial institutions to comply with anti-money laundering and AML laws. Effective KYC involves knowing a customer's identity, their financial activities, and the risk they pose to your business. The key function of KYC is to gain a deep understanding of the companies you work with. Good KYC and good due diligence will protect your business from the threat of financial crime, fraud, regulatory compliance, reputational damage, reduce credit risk without affecting your customer's experience. KYC can then be split into two distinct processes. You have the onboarding of new clients. So whether you're, the onboarding process, so whether you're evaluating merchants, suppliers, customers, measures must be in place to evaluate the risk of onboarding that third party. So KYC's policies require due diligence to know and retain the essential facts concerning every third party. Whether you're technically subject to KYC regulations or not, companies of all sizes are embracing these procedures to protect themselves and their customers. KYC allows customers to protect themselves by ensuring they're doing business legally with legitimate enterprises. The second part of KYC then, it's the ongoing monitoring. So it's not enough to simply check your customer once. You need to have a program to monitor the customer and third party on an ongoing basis. The monitoring function should include changes in the company name, address, trading and legal status, financial status, the key people within the organization, and the corporate structure. CreditSafe helps customers with information required to effectively and thoroughly conduct due diligence. The information included within our products or our services can be broken down into 7 key areas. The first of these would be company identifying information. So this would include legal and doing business as names, location and corporate address, business indicator, whether the company is active or inactive, phone and website information, registered number, industry codes such as SIC or NAICS, the number of employees, incorporation date and the age of the business, the legal form, i.e. whether they're incorporated, public or a sole trader. The second category then would be credit risk. So the credit score, which predicts the likelihood of bankruptcy or delinquency in the next 12 months, and the suggested credit limit. Audited financials, the latest account date, the currency, and the percentage change from the previous year. Other financial items would include revenue, profit before tax, tangible net worth, total assets, total fixed assets, total current assets, and total current liabilities, to name a few. The fourth section would be linkage and ownership information. So we include the immediate holding company, the ultimate holding company globally, other subsidiaries and other linked companies. The fifth section would then include legal filings, bankruptcy status, any suits and judgments, as well as UCC or mortgages. The sixth area would be the key people or people with significant control. So this includes officers and directors, shareholders. And the seventh bracket of data would include compliance. So things such as sanction checks against an entity, sanction checks against key people, politically exposed or PEP profiles, identifying state-owned businesses, and then adverse media screening. So ineffective know your customer KYC policies can place a huge burden on businesses, both in terms of cost and resources. I've worked in the industry for 16 years, and when I first joined the company, we were still faxing reports to clients. So it's been an intriguing journey for me to see how technology has changed for the better credit management over the years. However, it does still amaze me that there are companies that employ insufficient, outdated technologies and processes. Pre-COVID, a lot of my time was spent both visiting both clients and non-clients at their offices. And one of the more common things I would notice is the credit manager's desk just overflowing with various documentations, or there would be certain rooms full of filing cabinets with all the relevant documentation pertaining to a third party would be stored. So there's certainly room for digitization and automation and better processes there. The KYC process needs to be scalable. The process of gathering, storing, maintaining this data on the outside can look a little bit daunting, but it's for this reason that CreditSafe partners with companies like Serrala, who are able to, who have built tools to not only utilize the CreditSafe data, but the customer's data to make this KYC process more efficient. So with that, Nathan, I'd like to pass to Michael to talk about Serrala.
I think I appreciate that. I'm going to jump in real quick while Michael gets ready to talk, and I hate to break in on you guys, but I'm going to launch this poll. So folks, the poll will be launching here. You'll have a few minutes while Michael starts talking here to answer that, and then I'll let the speakers know what's going on with that. But sorry to interrupt, guys. I just wanted to let everybody know that that was happening. So there you go. And Michael, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Nathan. Well, I'm going to click away the poll because I'm not going to participate. I'm going to share my screen instead, and hopefully you will be able to see my presentation right now. Okay, let's reel back a little, first of all, and go back to some of the challenges that we see happening in companies in terms of like how they do their credit risk assessment, especially like these times, like during a crisis that was unleashed by the COVID-19 situation. As Mark already pointed out, you know, we see obviously an increased credit risk due to the economic situation that we're facing today. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And also, what we can say very reliably is that what we used to look at in terms of the credit risk evaluation, you know, customers, especially with existing customers, their past payment performance, or if it was a new customer, we would reach out to probably other companies for like a trade reference. But that information about how they used to pay their bills in the past is actually no longer as reliable as it used to be, because that data point has become very weak. A company that was flourishing, you know, before the whole, you know, Corona crisis hit, might not be doing that well today, and hence no longer be able to pay their bills. However, it is still a very important data point, as we will see, because companies that entered the crisis on a very strong financial foothold obviously are in a better standing than companies that were weak to begin with. Another challenge that we at Serrala see that many credit managers face is that of the frequency of reviewing their customer portfolio, of doing credit reviews. And that was kind of a problematic thing even before the whole COVID situation hit, because the lack of technology. I mean, Mark put that, like, he explained that so well, because we've seen the same thing. You know, we would go into clients' offices or prospect offices, and we would literally see that there's a lot of manual work and paper-based processes going on in the 21st century. So obviously, if you have a very manual process, it is impossible. It is really impossible with the staffing that most companies have in their finance department to review their customer portfolio on a regular, ongoing basis. But now this has actually become more important than ever, because the whole situation is changing from month to month, and we live still in a very uncertain economic climate. You know, and even like the whole macro climate of we don't know what's going on. There is talk about like maybe a second wave coming. How will this affect the economy? Some governments say like we will never have a shutdown like we had before. Other governments don't say anything. So it's really uncertain. So now it's more important than ever to review the risk profiles actually on an ongoing basis. But without any kind of technological support, that is just close to impossible. Also because of the information silos that exist in many companies. So there would be credit reports that, you know, you pull from credit safe would be stored even digitally. That's okay, but even digitally, they would be stored on some like hard drive or server. Whereas you have customer data in your ERP system, you know, your master data, then you would have the initial credit application stored somewhere else. And sometimes you would have no trace of some information that was fed to you by the sales team. It would just be like a phone call or message that wasn't recorded anywhere. And that is just like, you know, at the back of the credit manager's mind. So it's really impossible to do like comprehensive credit risk reviews with that situation going on. And the fourth point here, lack of automation, just ties into that. If you don't automate that review process to the extent possible, then you will lose visibility into the actual risk trends that you see evolving, or that you would see evolving in your customer portfolio. So, and that is really a challenging situation, and specifically credit managers have more than enough on their plate already. So, you know, I don't know a single person in the credit industry that is not or has not been working overtime these last couple of months. So that just, you know, the lack of technology just like puts an added layer of stress to their day-to-day business, really. So that's kind of the situation that we see many companies facing right now. All right. And I don't know, Nathan, would we want to see the poll results already? Or
if you would like to, or I can kind of hold them. Folks? Yeah, I can hold them to the end, or sure. I can talk to you about them right now if you'd like. Yeah,
let's see the poll results, and then we can go into more a solution-oriented approach then.
So sharing that right now, as you see, about half of you responded. Thank you for that. Most folks are either doing an individual PDF or printable file, or some sort of separate digital platform that they log on to and allows for downloads and things like that when it comes to how they're receiving their credit data. And then when we look at integration and automation, it looks like most folks are looking to it and looking for it, but haven't begun that process quite yet. I think everything else is pretty evenly done, but that it seems like most folks are looking for something, but haven't quite figured it out yet. So some good results here. I appreciate that, folks. Thanks so much.
It's fascinating information.
Yeah. So I'll take that off, and Michael, you can continue, and we can always put it back up later.
Yeah, awesome. No, and thanks for everyone that responded. And actually, I mean, those responses are no surprises really, because that is what we also see kind of happening out there. Mm-hmm. And that's why it really underscores the importance of having a good system, you know, to create that single source of truth that we're going to talk about more in the coming minutes. But just, you know, as a general reminder, so what we also picked up from some credit associations out there, some kind of general recommendations based on surveying that they do. So first of all, interestingly enough, some of the surveying that those credit associations do, they indicate a trend that companies or credit managers start doing a more frequent review and update of risk profiles, but not to the extent that, you know, it could be really done. So some say, okay, we do it on a monthly basis now. Some say we do it on a quarterly basis, but really the majority of respondents say, like, we're still trying to figure out a way to do that. And really the best practice recommendation by most credit associations nowadays is, you know, take a hard look at your credit policy, even review your credit policy to see, like, do you need to update certain you know, passages in there, you know, or do you have probably think about like redesigning your scorecards if you're using a scorecard, maybe in terms of what kind of things do you accept, what kind of things didn't you accept before, for example, like repayment arrangements, payment plans. Most companies before the crisis, they wouldn't even, you know, think of offering their customers that, and now many of them actually rethinking that policy and saying, like, well, let's see if we can work something out so our customers can repay us in installments. So that is kind of the recommendation that we see by, you know, those credit associations. If we take a look at the scorecard itself that, you know, hopefully most credit people are using to kind of score or categorize their customers in terms of like risk buckets. So the traditional risk profile that has, you know, customers' payment behavior, customers' financial profile, you know, financial statements, obviously it's, you know, it is a kind of diehard element of a scorecard, and it should still obviously stay in there, although we've established already that, you know, the significance of it probably will be going down. But then there's like 3 other things that, you know, companies might want to consider integrating their scorecard. So first and foremost, credit agency reports, like, you know, credit safe data. The customer's company profile, like an internal assessment, maybe together with your sales team. You know, what kind of company profile does your customer have in terms of their marketing growth strategy, their customers, because obviously that will have a lot of implications for the credit risk. And then also your own business strategy, like is the customer strategic enough that you are willing to accept certain risks that are associated with doing business with them. So as we said, so the first traditional aspect obviously will be losing importance, and those 3 other aspects hopefully will gain more prominence in companies or credit managers' scorecards. And just going back to, you know, credit safe data, obviously, as Mark pointed out really well, you know, there's a lot of information in those credit safe reports, and companies like Credit Safe, it is their like business to investigate, and they do, you know, such a thorough investigation that no credit department in no company would be able to do themselves, just because they don't have the resources. So that's why it is increasingly important to integrate those third-party credit data in your own credit policy, and make sure that you subscribe to their monitoring or update service, because things can change very quickly, and you really want to make sure to integrate that in your credit risk evaluation as well. So that's actually extremely important. Now, in terms of like updating the risk profiles, there is a few things that need to be considered here. Obviously, just the frequency, we talked about that. It is not enough to do it on a yearly, annual basis. You know, ideally, it should be done on a weekly or daily basis by a system that you put in place, like an automated risk review in the background of your entire customer portfolio based on parameters that you define. That is really the world-class standard for credit management these days, because only then can you assure that you are on top of the trends that are emerging within your customer portfolio. And then in terms of performance statistics, like usually if companies did that, they would do like a year-over-year comparison, like, oh, the customer, like the internal credit score that we calculated on the customer was like this last year, now it's that, and do a comparison. But really, now companies should actually be thinking about doing like more like month-over-month comparisons, because things are changing quickly, and the company that was trading well last month might not be doing well this month, or with the reverse. That we see also companies kind of emerging a little more stronger than they were like 3 months ago. So it's really important to do those like more like month-over-month comparison statistics rather than year over year. And a third aspect, and this is extremely important, is the monitoring aspect, to get like proactive alerts. So that I cannot stress enough how important that is. And just the thing is, just like Mark explained with what CreditSafe does for their customers, when there's some new information on the company, change of ownership, or they recalculated the credit score, there's a change, of the rating or their credit recommendation, you would get those changes delivered if you subscribe to the update or monitoring service. But actually, you should be looking for a system to support your credit managers that does that like for your customer portfolio globally, and not just like for third-party data. So for example, let's say you have a scoring method, you rescore your customers on a regular basis, and there are some trends where, certain customers they show some signs of like weakness, or that there's some, information in how their payment performance develops, or, third-party information. Then you really want to have your credit managers get like proactive alerts to alert them and to take a look at it and to take action very, very quickly. Now, with all that said, I mean, I didn't really say like, oh, Serrala, we at Serrala, we do that. But everything that I just mentioned is actually a feature description for Serrala's FS2 credit management solution.
And I just wanted to point out there, it really does away with the information silos, and it includes your internal data, the documents provided to you by your customers, but also, the CreditSafe data and like the full report, both the PDF and structured data, like not just the rating and the score, but like the entire report are accessible and stored from within our, Serrala's credit management solution. It also helps with collaboration across teams, especially now that credit managers might want to reach out more to salespeople to get some input, some feedback, because they are very close to their customers, to get their input in there as well. And, that frequent and ongoing monitoring of your risk profiles and the updates that we talked about, that is actually happening within Serrala's credit management solution. So you can like have updates as frequently as you want to. And I can say like most of our customers, like 99.9% of our customers, they run their risk profile updates on a daily basis, automatically in the background, and have proactive alerts sent out to the credit manager, when there is like dramatic changes, which is also configurable what kind of alerts you want to get so you don't get spammed. So that really makes for greater visibility and helps credit managers with their decision making. I mean, there's a lot more to the solution, but the webinar is not on that solution, but I just like how it really helps credit managers to stay on top of that evolving situation that we're all living, and help them make better credit decisions. So in summary, I think we discussed how important it is to work off a single source of truth for all your credit data, improve collaboration with other teams to get critical input, have that frequent, regular review and update of your.
I am going to jump into these questions. We have quite a few, so I'm going to try and go through them quickly. Like I said before, some of these are specifically for Serrala. So Michael, obviously you'll have those. Some of them are specifically for CreditSafe. So Mark, you'll be up. And some of them are for both. And I'd love to have a little discussion between the two of you. But first one, Mark, here that's CreditSafe specific is, credit safe adjusting or changing its data based on the current global pandemic? So is COVID affecting the data or anything like that?
We've done very early in the sort of start of the pandemic. We started, and all of our credit safe entities have started analyzing all of the data to see what's available. Even I think we're 4 months in today, the situation is changing both on a macro and microeconomic level, by industry, by state, by town. So there's lots of different factors that we are keeping into consideration. We've made the decision not to impact our credit score. The idea of the credit score is to still separate the good from the bad, and our score still does that. But we have launched an initiative to provide a COVID risk score. We've done some webinars, Nathan, I believe, are available on our website that explains the COVID methodology. It's also a free service that we offer. So if anyone is, any of the attendees would like some more information, please feel free to get in touch with Nathan, and then we can provide you with the documentation and the free service. That wasn't meant to be a plug for our services.
That's okay. We can do that. So I did one for Mark. Let me do one for Michael here. Michael, you talked about a scorecard and everything. How easy is it to adjust or tweak the scorecard in your credit management system?
That's a very good question, actually. We made it very easy. And also, we at Serrala believe in empowering our clients to own that solution. So we actually teach and train the users to make those changes themselves rather than having to reach out back to Serrala for support. So we really empower them to be able to make those changes themselves, because we know, especially now in the climate that we live in, there will be frequent probably updates to the scorecard, especially to the weightings that you attach to each criterion. So it's very easy for the users to make it themselves.
Sure. Okay. And let's jump to one that's kind of a dual question here. Does Serrala arrange for a company's hard copy documentation on third parties to be digitized so that it can be analyzed along with the credit safe data? So both of you enjoy talking about that.
I think the first part in terms of digitization is for you, Michael.
Yeah, but let me just talk about that real quick. So obviously there is some capability in our solution to arrange for digitization and including those data within, the credit solution, and having it stored, first of all, there, but also having it made actionable, like trickling into the scorecard, for example.
Sure.
Once the data is in a readable format, i.e. digitized, Credit Safe offers instant portfolio review. So let's assume that the question's geared from someone that has 10,000 customers. Rather than having to do 10,000 searches, we can provide data back in different formats that looks at the whole 10,000. So effectively doing a credit report on the portfolio rather than a single report.
There you go. Okay, so let's go back here. I'll do one on credit safe here. This person's asking, they've noticed that entity information on credit safe reports often isn't matching the U.S. Secretary of State, what they're reporting as the current entity information. Is there a specific reason for this?
There can be several reasons. I think the assumption is the Secretary of State is the backbone of the credit safe data. It's important to note that a credit report is designed to make a credit decision. The Secretary of State basically tells you whether that company has filed recently or not. We aggregate data from lots of other sources, and the Secretary of State is one of them. One of the challenges that all of the rating companies face is the issue of duplications and locations. So what you'll find is when you're looking at a report, you want to make sure you are looking at the correct headquarter, and we'd expect the Secretary of State information to be correct there. Although it may the address may differ because we've chosen a higher quality data source over Secretary of State.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's go back to a Serrala question here. Michael, you were talking about the automation, especially with alerts. How would a credit manager get the automated alerts you were talking about?
So the solution that we have comes with a work list. So they would get that in like an alert list or work list that they could consult at their own convenience. But there's also the option to alerts by email. So it's basically up to the credit manager what their preference is, either a work list or emails or both.
Okay. Okay. This one is, I'm guessing it's a little bit more credit safe focused, but it might be for both here. I think both of you probably have a way to weigh in on this. As far as reporting data in, what are the qualifications to be able to report in as well as pull credit?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Sure. Yeah.
My understanding, and I may be incorrect here, Nathan.
Sure.
As well as pulling a credit report, customers of any of the report bureaus have the option to provide their accounts receivable to said business in order to impact that company's reports. CreditSafe doesn't really have any qualifications around company size. We will want to make sure the data is accurate. One of the things we're working with Serrala on is to be able to do that through the Serrala system. So it's standardized and the data quality that's being reported is high. That's my interpretation. I might be a little off on that.
Okay. Michael, anything to add there?
No, yeah, I was gonna say that's also how I perceive the question of
Sure.
like reporting AR data in. We are actually, and that's true, we're working with CreditSafe on a way to enable that, kind of like feedback to CreditSafe functionality. So you receive it in a standardized way and can process that more easily.
Sure. And Sarah, if that didn't answer your question, please go ahead and rephrase and ask that again. So another question here, this one is specifically credit safe. Says, we've had several small customers close or file for bankruptcy in 2020. I've received the legal paperwork before CreditSafe showed a change in risk. I understand, but how do we proactively identify the risk?
It ties in nicely to our previous question. Mm-hmm. I would always recommend where you're able to share your receivables with us. CreditSafe's role is really to try and predict bankruptcy, but we obviously need data to do that. The alert that's filed when a company files for bankruptcy is after the fact, i.e., it's gone to the bankruptcy court. The bankruptcy court have ruled in favor to allow a bankruptcy petition. That data gets released. All of the ratings agencies then will match it against our database, but it's too late. It's you're already doing business with them. And I think the key to this question was several small customers. This is the particularly problematic area in US data. With large prominent companies, they usually, there's media articles months and weeks before to say companies are struggling. They have to file financials. The availability for small companies is a lot less, and this is why we always encourage people to share their accounts receivable. Any trends in payment behavior to you and others then will positively or negatively impact a person's report, depending on the payment behavior. There are still instances where companies are reporting perfect payment behavior and they still file bankruptcy. It's not always a profitability issue. There's lots of reasons for bankruptcy.
And Nathan, can I add something to that?
Please, go right ahead.
Because I mean, and what Mark said is absolutely right. Most of the time you just know after the fact, and it just has happened. We have a customer. They had a very similar. They had one of their customers going bankrupt, but in that case, the credit manager actually received a call from the salesperson saying, like, I just got back from this customer and something's off here. Maybe we should just, block them for a while. you know, and they did. So they, you know, managed the information in their system, documented everything, and blocked the customer. And lo and behold, the next day the customer filed for bankruptcy. So that kind of underscores also the importance, if you want to be proactive, you need to build a good relationship with, you know, people within your organization that are closer to your customers, and ask for their input, or like get their input somehow, sometimes, to be proactive.
Great points. Thanks, guys. And Sarah let us know that that was what she was asking. So you guys did a good job on interpreting that and answering that question. I have another question here that I know the answer, but I will ask it anyway. Is this system available for consumers?
I guess the Serrala system, yes, of course. It works within B2B, B2C, whatever your customers are.
Just to build on to that, Nathan, CreditSafe is a B2B information provider. However, we do provide principal officer information provided via Equifax.
Yes. All right. This one is, with automatic AR reporting and data retrieval, how can companies address or dispute any type of reporting that they would want to have a dispute on? Are there any processes in place to streamline that, something like that?
I guess there's two ways of answering this question. The first part is, are there processes in place to dispute the information that you're providing? When we onboard any data source, it has to go through a series of checks and balances and sort of doing our due diligence on the data quality. Our analyst team will take the time to look at this information, raise any queries, but essentially we're reporting that data as it's sent to us. If one of your customers is querying the information that is provided on them, the process is exactly the same, whether it's automatic or not. They would contact the relevant bureau, suggest that, or say that I don't believe this piece of information is right. The process is completely anonymous. So at that point, we won't inform the customer that's making the query who's given us that information. But we will then speak to the person who's made the query, or sorry, who's provided the data, and sense check, data quality check, and if appropriate, we'll remove or amend.
Good stuff. So there you go. There's the way to do it, and the process and everything. Got another one here. If we cannot analyze a customer's past payment performance to analyze risk, can you give some guidance on how a customer's risk profile can be analyzed given these uncertain times?
Michael, would you like to take first pass?
Yeah, I mean, I would say let's do a follow-up webinar on that, because we have hours on that. And really, I mean, just to make it very short, like, you know, and quick here, obviously there's a lot of other data points that you can take into consideration, you know, and some of them I kind of tried to mention earlier. You know, look at your company's or your customer's kind of company profile, like do like a business model assessment. But that again goes back to like collaborating with your sales folks, because they have to collect like information on your customers, you know, and maybe work together, like, you know, I don't know, the questionnaire, and then kind of do like a scoring or rating based on, you know, that business model assessment, like, you know, who are your customers, what market are they operating in? Do we have any alerts for specific industries, you know, that your customers are operating in? What is your customers' like HR structure? You know, is there like stability in the management, or, you know, are people just leaving? You know, do they still invest in innovation? And, you know, there's a lot of things that you can, you know, take as kind of risk assessment or risk factor assessment.
Just to add to that, Nathan, I think Melinda's question was in reference to Michael's comment, and I don't think your intent, Michael, was to say don't use payment information. I think what we're saying is there are other data sources that need to be considered, particularly during economic downturns. As with the bankruptcy questions, there are companies that are displaying, perfect payment behavior, and unfortunately there is no trade anymore, so they just cannot pay. So I think continuing to monitor both payments to yourself and also the payment information on the report is very important. However, it's very sensible to be looking for alternative data sources, media articles, credit information, and other pieces of information that are out there.
Great stuff. I appreciate it, guys. I want to say thank you to both of you. Thank you to our audience. We're going to have to wrap up here. I do want to let everybody know that, as I said in the beginning, this is a series of webinars. This was number 1 in a series of 3. The second of these webinars on connecting credit safe with SAP is Wednesday, the 19th of August at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. So same day and time, just 2 weeks from now. And you will have information on how to sign up for that in your follow-up email. It'll take you right to the landing pages that'll let you register for that webinar. But once again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, guys. Likewise, it was a pleasure.
Thanks. And everyone, have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye.